Wasn't there a guy named Bob Powell talked down here one time, told about his...
You'll find them here every Thursday morning, back there near the breakfast bar.
So they made him a glider instructor immediately.
They never get too loud, never out of hand. So when other diners go back for a second helping of scrambled eggs, there's no reason to notice that little gathering of gray hair in the back room. But folks ought to do a double take and listen to the real-life stories of real-life heroes.
Those days, I joined the Navy in 1937 from a little town in Nashua, Iowa. I had never seen a body of water bigger than the Big Cedar River.
Robert's USS Nevada was hit by 9 bombs and a torpedo and was the only ship to get underway that Sunday morning at Pearl Harbor.
We had 185 casualties, 50 of them fatalities.
Charles Ward earned a Silver Star fighting the Germans in Europe.
And my outfit, my platoon, had been caught in a serious situation, and I got them out of it. That's about all there was to it. It didn't amount to much.
Charles never mentions that General George Patton pinned that little star on him.
I lost some good buddies.
Harry Griggs was 18 when his Marine platoon landed on Okinawa. And Charlie Bonner was one of 60 airborne pathfinders who went in first on D-Day.
There's 3 of us still left. We have a great regard for one another.
It's the same for everyone in this room, great respect and regard for one another, because each of them survived the greatest conflict the world has ever known. And because of that, each of them became a walking, breathing history lesson of America's role in it. You can find an eyewitness account of every battle of the Second World War in this room, served over French toast and bacon each Thursday morning. Blaine Immel flew off the carrier Bunker Hill.
We made the first Navy strike on Tokyo, covered Iwo Jima, Okinawa. And then we were kamikaze May 11th in 1945. And I had a big jump to the water, about 8 stories.
Blaine was picked out of the water. 405 others weren't. Most of them suffocated in the toxic smoke. And Jack Lance became a prisoner of the Gestapo after the bomber he piloted was shot down on its 5th mission.
I was the only survivor. 6 months later, they found most of my crew. They washed ashore.
The stories are riveting, but commonplace by now to these men. Their wives have heard them, their children have too. Their grandchildren and great-grandchildren so often don't seem to care. But they are stories everyone should hear, not just the breakfast regulars at Shoney's, which is why this group has taken on one last mission.
And our number one objective is, I believe we all agree to do, is to make appearances at schools to inform the school kids what really took place in World War II.
Now, raise it over your head.
Raise it over my head.
Like this.
Okay, I got you.
Okay. Now hold it out straight.
Hold it out straight?
Yeah, and you got to hold it for 1 minute.
Herb Ponto has brought his Army-issue rifle to Cleveland High School today, so another youngster might feel what basic training was like. And his helmet, that rusted steel, has a story all its own.
That helmet, we all wore them, and they were our lifesavers. We washed our socks in it, we cooked food in it. When I hit the beach the first day, I lost my knife and fork. So I spent a month and a half using just a spoon to eat with. But it's amazing what you can do with just a spoon.
Not every war story is heroic. In fact, most aren't.
One of your biggest things that I used to dream about was sleeping in between sheets. And I think actually we did not get a bath until we got to the Rhine River.
These men go out of their way to keep the blood and gore to a minimum. Still, Guy Reed feels compelled to talk of liberating a Nazi death camp as an Army doctor. That day is burned on his soul. Don't tell him they didn't exist.
Believe me, the camps were there. The people did die. It was one of those things that you really wouldn't want to do again.
And it seems to sink in after a while, to kids whose concept of war comes from a cartoonish timeline on the wall and 25 lifeless pages in a history book.
They're always saying you learn from your mistakes, and actually you learn from others too.
Maybe it comes when the old men remind the young men that teenagers fight wars. I was your age when the call came, and I was scared.
And I know in my own case, when it got close to the end of the war, and you could see that we were winning and it was almost over with. I got more and more scared because I didn't want to be the last guy killed in the war.
I'd like to say a little bit about General Patton. When I first went into the Army, we went to Fort Benning, Georgia.
They'll speak to whomever wants to hear, hauling along their medals and uniforms and captured Axis booty. And at Tulsa Memorial, as Paul Arth talks of the exploits that earned him 2 Purple Hearts, silver and bronze stars, there's a little of what they're up against. Kids oblivious to it all. Kids who can sleep in class because these men, at that age, went off and won a war.
I don't know exactly, but this beach here was 4 miles wide.
A war that, even though they survived, changed them forever.
War is terrible, and you remember that man over there, your enemy, is designed, he's trained to kill you. And you are trained to kill him. And this is the thing you've got to remember. You're out there trying to kill each other.
Stories worth telling, stories worth remembering, because they come from history books that still draw breath.
Hey, you did a good job on that rifle. Thank you.
Scott Thompson, The Oklahoma Traveler.